All right, welcome. You guys ready to talk drones? So, today I wanted to make my first gear review video as this is my first FPV drone. So, I have hundreds of hours, probably hundreds of hours flying the DJI Mavics. I think the last time I checked it was like 290 hours in the DJI app. I've owned the Air 2S, the Air 3, the Mini 4, and that's my current DJI is the Mini 4. Ashton and I actually have a travel channel and use it a lot for cinematic videos, but got into FPV and I'm really enjoying this. So my first drone, as you can tell in the title of the video, was the Cinelog GEPRC Cinelog25 V2. So this is the analog version of this drone, meaning it runs through analog signal. It's not a digital like a 0304 DJI unit. It is also got the GPS installed and it's the V2. So this does potentially have the ability to go into beta flight, configure a fail-safe so it'll return to home. But it's been a great drone. I've probably flown it about 20 times now. This is technically the drone I'm learning on. But it's time for a couple upgrades. So I want to go over those. First things first, is the propellers. So you'll be able to see right here that this is the propellers that came with the drone. They're a 4-blade, 2.5-inch propeller. But I have gone through the 2 sets that come with these, and the shop recommended that once I go through those 2 sets of propellers, and guys, when I say go through 2 sets, I mean tiny nicks, but you know, when you're learning, you're going into land, if you don't cut your power, you don't disarm the drone quick enough when you land, and you just slightly touch an edge of these propellers to the ground, it will nick one of the edges. This is actually one of the better ones. 1 or 2 of these in here have some pretty good nicks. And it just really, the flight gets shaky after that. So time to upgrade. So I've actually decided to go to the 3-blade HQProp DT63. So these are a 2.5-inch HQProp propeller. And I've learned a couple things just in swapping these out. So you've really got to be careful with quads when you go to swap propellers out. Because you'll notice if you look at these, for example, this propeller is going in at this angle, while this one is going down at this angle. And so why that matters, if you put these on wrong, upside down or backwards, this drone will probably crash, fly erratically, flip over when you try to take off, and cause damage. So yeah, so I wanted to show you guys what it looks like to swap one of these out. These are opposing. These are also opposing each other. And 2, you've got to make sure you put them on the correct way. So propellers actually, I'm going to try to see if we can see this on camera, have a leading edge and a trailing edge. And the leading edge is actually thicker than the trailing edge. So there's a direction that these mount, this way or this way. And then, of course, there's a pattern that has to match. So make sure, guys, if you buy a drone, that before you swap out a single propeller, you look for the leading and tailing edge, identify that, and then look at the pattern of the props and make sure you match it, because 2 in your pack will go one way, 2 will go the other way. But yeah, so I want to go ahead and show you guys how this is done. Swap out these 2 screws. You take these 2 screws out, reach down and grab the propeller, get it off there. Ugh. This one's trash, so I don't care too much. And these things are stubborn. They are on there. All right, so we've got that prop off. And the way it came off, I'm going to look at that one more time before we mess with it too much. I can tell that the trailing edge is facing this way, down. And so when I go to mount these guys, we're actually going to be installing this one in the same orientation. So that is what we're going to do. So the key to swapping these out, kind of got to be, so you got to be a bit firm. You want to line up these holes before you press it down to the shaft. And something I figured out helps is if you take your tool, your Allen wrench, and just make sure you're lined up in there. So if you're lined up and it's going down to the little hole in the motor, you can press that on, and you're going to be pretty close at that point. So that's a little trick that I figured out that works good for me. I wouldn't jam that down in there. You could probably do some damage, but that helps you line it up. And when you go to put the new screws in, it should do pretty well here. So go ahead and screw those on. Make sure they are nice and tight. They are. All right. Second thing, make sure it's nice and tight. All right, and that is how you swap out propellers. So again, guys, be very careful that when you swap these propellers out, you pay attention to the orientation, and you look at how these blades are oriented, because again, you've got to have it right, or this drone's going to just freak out royally when you go to fly and probably cost you some money in repairs. So make sure you check that before you fly. But if you do and you swap them out, you should be good to go. So there's that. That's how you swap the propellers out on the GEPRC Cinelog25. Stay tuned. I'm going to shoot one more video and talk about how to get better analog signals from this drone. And so I'm going to show you guys that video next. All right.